Have you ever wondered what your body is trying to tell you when death is quietly approaching? Not in the movies, not in a hospital room, but in real life. When the veil thins, there are signs, and if you know how to see them, you'll understand the sacred truth that death is not the end. Right now, millions are walking with these signs inside them, unaware, and the moment they miss them, the chance to prepare their souls slips away. Ancient wisdom, forbidden books, and modern research all point to one shocking realization. They never wanted you to know how close the afterlife really is. You can close this video and pretend your time isn't limited, or you can discover the 5 sacred signs that your soul is nearing the doorway, and finally, learn how to prepare. You can feel it in the silence. Not just the kind that fills a quiet room, but the one that slips into your bones, where life used to echo but now feels still. There's a moment when your body no longer reaches for tomorrow the same way, when your spirit begins to whisper things your mind doesn't understand yet, and if you've been sensing that something is shifting, subtly, slowly, you're not imagining it, you're preparing. Most people think death arrives like a thief in the night, sudden, brutal, final, but the truth is, it doesn't always come in chaos. Sometimes it arrives gently, wrapped in signs, sacred clues that the soul is beginning its return journey. The problem is most people don't recognize them. They dismiss them as tiredness, age, stress, or illness. But you are waking up to something deeper. And that awareness, that's not fear, that's grace. The first sign is that your body begins to whisper. Not scream, not demand, but whisper. And the whispers are easy to miss unless you're listening. You might notice that your energy feels different, not just fatigue, but a kind of heaviness, as if your body is slowly letting go of the need to carry so much. You begin sleeping more, sometimes 10, 12 hours at a time, and when you're awake, it's as if the world feels too loud, too bright, too demanding. Your body isn't malfunctioning, it's transitioning. Weight may begin to drop off of you without warning, not because of diet or exercise, but because your body is no longer focused on preservation. It's turning inward, conserving. This weight loss isn't just physical, it's symbolic. You are shedding, not just pounds, but identities, expectations, burdens you didn't even know you were carrying. If you've looked in the mirror lately and seen someone unfamiliar, someone both distant and deeply known, that's the soul rising to the surface. Your hands may feel colder than usual, your feet too. The warmth you once felt flowing through your limbs now lingers near your chest, your heart, your breath. It's not a medical error. It's your blood returning to the center, retreating from the edges. In many traditions, this change in circulation is not feared, it's honored, because it means your life force is focusing on the heart, the sacred seat of spirit. The body is preparing for departure the way a home grows quiet before someone moves out. And then there's the change in your skin. Maybe you've seen it. Patches of purple, blue, or gray appearing along your legs, your hands, your back. This isn't a flaw. It's a final artwork, a map of movement, a record of your body saying, "I've done enough. I've held you long enough. It's time to release." But here's the part no one tells you. Your spirit knows what's happening even before your mind does. You may start to feel like you're fading from daily life. Not disappearing, just detaching. You listen to conversations but don't feel the need to respond. You see messages come in but don't feel the urgency to reply. It's not depression, it's not disinterest, it's deeper. You're becoming more aware of the eternal than the temporary, and that shift, that's a sacred sign. Your appetite may vanish. You once craved the richness of meals, the sweetness of fruit, the warmth of coffee. Now none of it matters. You might sip water, nibble bread, but food no longer feels like fuel, because you're no longer preparing to live in this body. You're preparing to leave it. And when your soul starts letting go of the physical, your cravings follow. In Tibetan philosophy, this is seen as the soft unraveling of desire, a step toward spiritual freedom. You may feel a pull toward quiet. Loud music becomes irritating. Background noise feels invasive. Even the sound of a television, once comforting, might now seem jarring. Your soul is asking for space, not stimulation. Silence becomes your sanctuary. Stillness becomes your teacher. You don't want more distractions. You want to listen, to remember, to reflect. You might begin dreaming differently. You may see people who have already passed, loved ones you haven't thought about in years. You may hear their voices or feel their presence near your bed. You may even speak to them without fear or surprise. That's not your mind playing tricks. That's your soul reconnecting, preparing. Loved ones who've crossed over often return near the end, not to say goodbye, but to say, we're waiting. And sometimes, your body will do things even doctors can't explain. A burst of energy right before the end. A sudden moment of clarity when all else had faded. Terminal lucidity, they call it. But spiritual traditions have a different name for it. They call it the soul's final blessing, the last gift. You may find yourself suddenly sitting up in bed, smiling, speaking clearly. You might recall a memory from childhood or whisper a message to someone you love. This is not a return to health, it's a return to meaning. The soul's way of tying the final threads of this lifetime before it releases the tapestry. And through all of this, there's a question rising inside you. What am I supposed to do with these signs? You honor them. You don't rush to fix them. You don't fight them. You hold them, like sacred offerings placed in your hands by the divine. You breathe through them. You listen. You love. You forgive. And most of all, you allow. Because the soul doesn't fear death. Only the mind does. The soul has done this before, and when the body begins to whisper, it's the soul that answers, I'm ready. There's something else you may have noticed. Time feels different. Not just faster or slower, but almost like it's bending. The calendar might still hang on the wall, the clocks still tick, but you're no longer tethered to them the same way. You catch yourself slipping into memories, not in nostalgia, but in immersion. You begin to live more in the past, or outside of time altogether. 1 minute you're staring at the ceiling, the next you're standing in a moment from decades ago, vividly reliving it. It's not forgetfulness. It's the soul stepping beyond the limits of linear time. You might start revisiting moments that shaped you, not the big milestones, but the quiet ones. The laugh you shared with someone you lost, the way the sun filtered through your window on a summer afternoon, the sound of your mother's voice calling you in for dinner. These aren't random. These are echoes returning. The soul, in its wisdom, is reviewing the life it has lived, not to judge it, but to understand it, to integrate it, to bless it before the transition. Some people experience what's called terminal lucidity, a sudden, inexplicable clarity right before the end. Someone who hasn't spoken for days suddenly sits up and says something profound. A person lost in dementia suddenly recognizes a loved one, or utters a name no one knew they remembered. Science struggles to explain it, but the soul doesn't. Because even when the brain is breaking down, consciousness is still whole. That moment of clarity, that's the soul reminding you that it was never lost, it was only quiet. And maybe for you this clarity isn't sudden, maybe it's been building quietly. A soft knowing in your chest that you need to say certain words. Words like, I'm sorry, I forgive you, I love you, or even goodbye. You might find yourself needing to reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in years. You might feel compelled to write letters, share memories, tell the truth. This is not weakness. This is the heart's final act of alchemy, turning pain into peace. As you draw closer to the threshold, the weight of grudges becomes unbearable. Not because you're trying to be virtuous, but because your soul no longer has the bandwidth to carry bitterness. Forgiveness becomes less about them and more about you. You realize that what you don't release now, you may carry with you into what comes next. And so you begin to let go. Not all at once, sometimes just a breath at a time. But that breath, that's everything. You might find yourself crying without knowing why, laughing at things you once ignored, feeling waves of gratitude crash over you at the sight of a tree, the smell of coffee, the sound of rain. That's the veil thinning. That's your spirit waking up to the miracle of this moment. Because when you stand close to death, life becomes louder, the ordinary becomes holy, and suddenly you see beauty where you never noticed it before. That beauty has always been there, you're just finally present enough to see it. You may also begin to notice a gentle separation forming, not just emotionally but energetically. You find yourself less interested in the news, less concerned with petty arguments, less drawn into the noise of the world. It's not indifference, it's preparation. Your soul is slowly turning its face towards something bigger, toward the great return. You begin to remember something you've always known but had forgotten. This world was never the final destination. It was the classroom, the sanctuary, the dream, and soon you'll awaken. There's no set timeline for this awareness. For some it begins weeks before death, for others months, for a few years, but the signs are unmistakable when you learn to listen. You withdraw, not out of sadness but reverence, the same way a caterpillar builds its cocoon, not to hide but to transform. And as your world gets quieter, something inside you begins to rise, the part of you that has no age, no weight, no story. It's the part of you that was never born and will never die. Your eternal self. This transformation isn't just spiritual, it's sensory. You may notice sounds becoming sharper or fading entirely. Smells that others don't notice may suddenly flood your awareness, or they may vanish altogether. Some people describe catching the scent of roses or earth or incense, fragrances that seem to come from nowhere. Others report hearing voices, music, or the gentle hum of something they can't describe. It's not your mind playing tricks, it's your senses adjusting. You're no longer tuned only to this world. You're beginning to hear the other You might reach out towards something that no one else can see. You might speak to people who aren't physically in the room. You may look beyond someone's face as if focusing on a distant horizon. These moments are sacred. They're not hallucinations. They're reunions. The boundary between this life and the next is becoming transparent. What was once invisible is now visible. What was once fantasy is now memory. And when others ask if you're okay, you may not know how to answer. Because how do you explain that you're standing in two worlds at once? How do you describe the peace you feel even as your body weakens? How do you speak of the strange comfort of knowing your time is near, not as an end, but as a return to what you've always been? Words fall short. But your presence speaks volumes. There's a wisdom unfolding in you, a remembering, and that remembering has nothing to do with fear. It has everything to do with presence. You no longer chase answers, because the questions themselves begin to dissolve. You no longer resist the unknown because it doesn't feel unknown anymore. It feels familiar, like coming home. And if you're watching this for someone you love, and you're witnessing these signs in them, don't be afraid. Don't try to pull them back into the noise of the world. Let them drift. Let them reflect. Let them release. Your love is not in what you say, it's in your stillness, your patience, your willingness to walk with them, not to the edge of the cliff, but to the edge of the stars. Because the truth is, no one dies alone. Even in the quietest room, unseen hands are reaching. Even in the deepest silence, the soul is being sung home. And when that time comes, when the final breath is near, it won't feel like a fall. It will feel like flight. You begin to notice something else. Breathing, something so ordinary, becomes different. Slower, deeper, or sometimes erratic. There are moments when it pauses longer than you expect, and just as you think it's stopped completely, it starts again, like a tide pulling back before one final wave. This is one of the oldest and most sacred signs that death is near, not just because the body is failing, but because the soul is preparing for flight. This rhythm is ancient. It's the body's last language. In many traditions, the breath is the spirit's thread. The final breaths are like sacred syllables being whispered back to the divine. They don't always come evenly or gently. You may hear what's called the death rattle, wet, gurgling, uneven sounds. And while they may seem frightening, they're not painful. They're simply the body's way of saying, I'm finished speaking. My breath has said all it needs to say. There's a moment near the end when the breath becomes almost transparent, shallow like a feather rising and falling, then still. And in that stillness, something unexplainable happens. Time stops. The room shifts. It's as if everything holds its breath with you. You won't remember the moment you take your last breath, but your soul will. It will remember it as the exhale that set it free. But before that moment, there's a deep internal shift that often takes place, one that you may have already felt coming. You begin to move from the outer world into the inner one. The stories, titles, and names you carried start to lose their grip. You no longer think of yourself as someone's job title, someone's role, someone's label. You begin to feel who you are without all of that. And who you are is vast, timeless, unbound. You may begin to feel the presence of something greater. Not necessarily a figure or deity, but a presence, something intelligent, loving, wordless. You may feel watched, but not in fear, witnessed, held, seen in a way no human could ever truly see you. And that presence brings with it a peace that doesn't make sense to the mind, but makes perfect sense to the soul. Many people describe seeing a light, not with the eyes, but with something deeper. It's not always a tunnel. Sometimes it's a soft glow, a warmth, a sense of opening, like something vast has just arrived, and it's here for you. You don't chase it, you don't resist it, you simply notice that you're not afraid anymore. This is what many spiritual traditions call the threshold. In Buddhism, they speak of the bardo, the in-between state, the space between death and rebirth. In Christianity, they call it crossing over. In ancient Egyptian mysticism, it's the weighing of the heart. In every culture, in every language, there are words for this. Because no matter what path you walk, the threshold awaits us all. And it doesn't care about what you've done or not done. It only cares about what you've learned, what you've released, and how much light you've let into your heart. There is no judgment at this gate, not in the way you might imagine. It's not a courtroom. It's a mirror. And in that mirror you see yourself as you truly are, not the version molded by fear or shame, but the one that has always existed beneath it all. You see the moments you loved, the times you forgave, the times you held someone's hand in silence when no words could fix the pain. These moments shine. They are your soul's real accomplishments, not the trophies, not the degrees, not the money, just the love, the presence, the awareness. If you are the one nearing this threshold, know this. You are not broken. You are not being punished. You are being called, and the signs around you are invitations, not warnings. Not endings, but sacred mile markers guiding you back home. Your body is not failing, it's finishing. Your mind is not slipping, it's softening. Your soul is not dying, it's waking up. And if someone you love is walking this path before you, honor them. Let them be. Speak softly, touch gently. Listen more than you talk. Let your presence be a blanket, not a lecture. They don't need saving, they need space to go. Your job is not to pull them back, it's to help them remember that where they're going, they are not alone. Some people worry about being forgotten, about vanishing from the memories of those who remain. But here's what no one tells you. You are never forgotten. Your energy imprints on the ones you love. The way you laughed, the way you made someone feel seen, the way you stood by someone in their darkest moment. Those things do not die. They live in the breath of those who remain. They echo in dreams, in stories, in the quiet spaces in between. What if death isn't the opposite of life, but the completion of it? What if your final breath is the exhale that releases the most radiant part of you? What if the soul that is leaving the body is not diminishing, but expanding into a space so vast and luminous that words simply fall short? Not an end, not even a beginning, but a return. You may wonder, what comes next? Where do we go? Who greets us? And the truth is, every path has a different map, but the destination is always love. The Tibetan Book of the Dead teaches that the moment after death is filled with luminous clarity, a flash of pure awareness where all truth is revealed. If you're prepared, that light will feel like home. If you're not, it may feel overwhelming. But even then, it is still love. Even then, it is still you, just more than you've ever been. Some say you meet guides, others family, some no one at all, but are filled with an overwhelming sense of presence and peace. In the end, it doesn't matter what form it takes. What matters is how you meet it. And if you've recognized the signs, if you've prepared your soul, if you've let go of what was never yours to carry, then you will walk into that light, not in fear but in awe. This moment, the one you're living right now, it matters, because this life is the training ground for death. Every time you let go of something that no longer serves you, every time you forgive, every time you love without condition, you're rehearsing your return. So let the signs awaken you. Let them remind you of what's real, not to scare you but to soften you, not to rush your ending but to deepen your living. Because death doesn't come to steal, it comes to reveal, and when it does, you'll be ready. Somewhere deep inside, you already know this isn't the end. You've felt it before, in dreams that felt more real than waking, in moments when someone you lost seemed to reach across the veil and touch your heart. You may have dismissed it, called it imagination or a trick of the mind. But your soul knows better. It was a reminder, a gentle tap from the other side saying, I'm still here, and you'll be here too, one day. That's the great paradox, isn't it? Death seems like a disappearance, but in truth it's a return to the presence that's always been watching, guiding, waiting. We fear it because we've been taught to fear it, because we've been programmed to believe that what we can't see must be gone. But everything that matters most has always been invisible. Love, memory, faith, spirit. Death doesn't erase these things, it carries them forward. You may begin to feel a different kind of awareness, not just emotional or mental but spiritual, a pull toward unfinished business. Not just tasks but soul contracts, that person you wronged but never apologized to, that dream you held but never honored, that part of you that you buried to make others comfortable. As the body begins to fade, the soul begins to rise, and with it comes the clarity to see what still lingers in the heart. This is the time to speak, to forgive, to breathe life into what still wants closure. Don't be afraid of that inner voice growing louder. It's not confusion, it's direction. It's your higher self speaking in a tone you finally have space to hear. The noise of the world is falling away, and with it the illusions you once thought were truth. Now you get to see what's real, what was always real. The love you gave, the kindness you shared, the courage it took to wake up every day and keep going. These things are sacred. These are the soul's currency, and they carry you through the gate. There's something profound about preparing to leave. You start seeing people differently. You see through their pain, their distractions, their defenses, and suddenly there's no desire to judge, only to understand. You don't want to win anymore. You want to connect. You want to hold someone's hand and say, I see you, I'm with you. And when you start living like that, even if you're close to the end, you're more alive than most people will ever be. You start remembering what matters, not the regrets or the mistakes, but the small sacred things, the smell of rain hitting dry earth, the way someone looked at you like you mattered, the first time you realized you were loved, really loved without needing to earn it. These are the moments your soul carries, not the failures, not the shame, just the essence, just the truth. And you begin to wonder what comes after, not out of fear but curiosity. You begin to imagine what it might feel like to be free from pain, to be free from the weight of the body, the limits of the flesh, what it might feel like to dissolve into something infinite, something light, something silent and alive at the same time. Maybe it's a field, maybe it's a river, maybe it's nothing at all, and yet everything. Some have seen it in near-death experiences, the tunnel, the light, the loved ones waiting, the overwhelming sense of being wrapped in love so vast, so perfect it makes you want to stay. But they return to tell the story, and when they do, their fear of death is gone, because they've seen the truth, that this isn't the end of the road, it's the doorway back to where you came from. You don't need a religion to believe that. You don't need a title or a ritual or a doctrine. You just need the willingness to listen to what your soul has always known, that you are not your body. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are awareness, pure, luminous, infinite awareness. And death is not your enemy. It's your passage home. If you're feeling that now, if you sense the soft unraveling of your identity, if you feel your edges dissolving into something wider, don't fight it. Breathe into it. Let the veil fall. Let the story end, not in tragedy but in truth. You're not being erased, you're being remembered. Remembered by the stars, by the source, by the part of you that was never touched by fear or shame or loss. And maybe, just maybe, you've come back many times before. Maybe you've crossed this threshold in other lifetimes, in other bodies, and each time you left behind a trail of wisdom. That explains why some part of this feels familiar, why some part of you isn't afraid. Because it remembers. Because you've done this before. And now, once again, you're standing at the edge of the sacred. You don't need to understand it all. You just need to be willing to let go, willing to trust, willing to breathe. You came into this world crying, gasping for breath, surrounded by light and love. And when you leave, you'll return to the same. The breath may stop, the body may fall away, but the light carries you. There is one final gift you can give yourself and those you love, and that is peace. Not perfect circumstances, not endless control, just peace. Peace that says, I've lived, I've loved, I've learned, I've forgiven, and now I release. Peace that says, I trust the mystery, because the mystery has always loved me. And if you can find that peace, even for one breath, you've already won. Because death in its deepest truth isn't a punishment or a thief, it's a liberator. It strips away everything that isn't you, and what's left is divine. Even now, as you hear these words, you can feel something stirring within you. Maybe it's subtle, a tingling in your chest, a heaviness behind your eyes, a memory rising without reason. That's not random. That's your soul responding to truth. Because truth doesn't hit you like a fact. It washes over you like a wave, gentle and undeniable. It doesn't demand belief. It just waits to be recognized. And now, maybe you're beginning to recognize it. That everything you thought was the end was actually a beginning in disguise. That what you feared most about death wasn't the pain or the loss, it was the unknown, the silence, the void. But what if the void isn't empty? What if it's full of everything your heart has ever longed for, without need, without struggle, without weight? This is the final lesson life has to offer, that death, when met with awareness, reveals the illusion we've all been living under, that we are not the name we were given, the body we wore, or the stories we told to survive. We are something deeper, and only death has the power to strip away the noise and show us what's real. You won't need your thoughts where you're going. You won't need your opinions, your fears, or your plans. You'll leave behind the battles you fought and the masks you wore. And none of it will be wasted. Every experience, every scar, every lesson. It all comes with you, not as baggage but as light, as wisdom, as expansion. If you've lived with pain, you'll carry understanding. If you've suffered loss, you'll carry compassion. If you've loved deeply, you'll carry the echo of that love into every plane of existence you touch. Nothing is wasted, not even your tears. They are sacred offerings to the river of time. And that river carries you exactly where you're meant to be. Maybe you've heard stories of people who passed and came back. People who floated above their bodies, saw their loved ones, traveled through tunnels of light. Maybe you've heard how they described a sense of peace so complete it made them question why they ever feared anything at all. They weren't dreaming, they weren't delusional. They were remembering. They were touching the truth, just long enough to bring it back with them. And you don't have to wait until your last breath to feel that peace. You can feel it now. You can breathe it in with every exhale. You can prepare not with panic, but with presence. Because preparing for death is not about giving up. It's about waking up. It's about choosing what matters and letting go of everything that doesn't. So what matters? That's the question, and only you can answer it. But maybe it's not about achievements. Maybe it's not about how much you've done or owned or conquered. Maybe it's about how deeply you've felt, how fully you've shown up, how honestly you've said, "I love you," even when it scared you. How bravely you've said, "I forgive you," even when it hurt. If there's something you've been holding back, a word, a truth, a goodbye, this is your invitation. Say it, write it, whisper it to the wind if you must, because the soul hears everything, even in silence, especially in silence. And what's left unspoken doesn't disappear. It waits until you're ready, until now. Maybe you've always thought of death as something far away, a distant shadow that only comes for the elderly, the sick, the unlucky. But death is not far. It's beside you, not to threaten, but to remind you that every moment is sacred, that nothing is guaranteed, that every sunrise, every embrace, every breath is a gift. You're not promised a later, but you are given this now. And that's where your power lives. Not in the past you can't change, not in the future you can't predict, but right here, in this moment, in your choice to breathe a little deeper, to love a little louder, to live a little truer. Because when death does arrive, and it will, you won't be able to take anything with you, except who you became. You won't be asked how many followers you had, you won't be asked how much money you made or how many people you impressed. You'll be asked, did you love? Did you grow? Did you awaken? Did you become the person you were sent here to be? And when you meet that light, whatever you choose to call it, you'll recognize it not as a stranger but as yourself. The you that existed before the fear, before the ego, before the world told you who to be. The you that has been watching, patiently waiting through every chapter of your life. And in that recognition, there is no more fear. There is only coming home. If you are nearing that journey or walking beside someone who is, take this with you. There is no right way to die. There is no perfect goodbye. There is only presence, only love, only this moment. Don't waste it trying to fix the past. Don't waste it fearing the future. Use it to soften. Use it to surrender. Use it to feel everything your soul came here to feel before it takes its next breath on the other side. And when that final breath comes, it won't be a gasp, it won't be a collapse, it will be a return, a dissolving into the very force that gave you life in the first place. And you'll know you've never been alone, not once, not even now. You may start to notice the way the world begins to look different, not physically, but energetically. You start to feel less drawn to the surface of things. The small talk becomes exhausting. The chase for more stuff, more approval, more distractions suddenly feels hollow. It's not that you're broken, it's that you're waking up. And the soul doesn't care about performance, it only cares about truth. You become more attuned to moments that matter. A quiet look between two people in love. A child's laughter carried through the air. The sound of leaves rustling just before sunset. The rhythm of your own breath. These are the things that begin to hold you. Not the news, not the chaos, not the games we play to survive. Just the pure, untouched beauty of being here, even for a little while. And perhaps the most surprising thing is this: joy doesn't disappear. In fact, it shows up more vividly than ever before. Not the loud kind, not the kind that needs applause, but a soft, steady kind of joy. The kind that wraps itself around you in the silence of early morning. The kind that fills your chest when someone holds your hand and says nothing at all. It's not happiness, it's peace. And peace is what your soul has been asking for all along. You'll start to feel that you no longer need to be anyone else. You're not trying to prove yourself anymore. Not trying to outrun your past or force your future into shape. You are just here. And that is enough. It's always been enough. The pretending drops away, the need to control softens, and something holy begins to take its place. There's a sacredness in being seen, truly seen in your final days, not as someone who is sick or fading, but as someone who is returning, someone who has lived, hurt, healed, fallen apart, and come back together. You carry stories in your bones, wisdom in your eyes, and even if the world doesn't always recognize it, your soul knows. It knows the storms you walked through, the nights you cried silently into your pillow, the moments you chose to rise when no one else was watching. None of that was wasted. It was preparing you, not for a perfect life, but for a conscious death, and those who die consciously die free. You may find yourself reflecting more often, and not with regret, but with reverence. You begin to see the patterns, the connections, the ways life wove itself around your choices, how certain people showed up right when you needed them, how even your mistakes carried hidden blessings, how some of your biggest detours were actually divine redirections. You stop judging your path, you start honoring it. And in this state, forgiveness becomes inevitable, not just of others, but of yourself. You realize you were always doing the best you could with what you had, what you knew, and what your heart could carry at the time. Maybe you weren't perfect, but you were real, and real is what the soul remembers. As the body grows quieter, the soul grows louder. You may feel as if you're being stretched between two worlds, one foot still here, the other already dipping into the infinite. You may feel a sense of longing you can't quite describe, like homesickness for a place you've never seen, but that place lives in you. It always has, and the closer you come to crossing over, the more clearly you feel its pull. You may hear things others don't, a voice calling your name just as you fall asleep, a melody you've never heard before but somehow recognize. You may feel warmth on your skin when no sunlight is present, or sense the presence of someone long gone standing quietly beside your bed. These are not hallucinations. These are invitations, gentle reminders that the veil between here and there is thinner than we've been led to believe. Some describe a bright presence appearing in their final hours, a mother, a friend, a guardian, not to pull you away in fear but to walk you forward in love. You may see them in dreams, or feel them when your eyes close, their touch, their scent, their essence. They are there to remind you, you are not leaving alone. And when the time comes, when the breath slows and the body begins to open its grip, the room itself begins to change, not for everyone else, but for you. The air feels softer, time slows, the boundaries of your skin blur, and a great stillness enters. It isn't silence, it's sacred space. And in that space you will remember. You'll remember who you were before the world told you what to be. You'll remember that the soul never feared death, only the forgetting of its light, and now that forgetting is over. Because in those final moments you become light again, not metaphorically, not poetically, but truly. You become awareness, untethered, and what was once confined to a single lifetime becomes one with all life. If you've ever feared dying alone, let that fear fall away now. There is no such thing. Even if no one is in the room, even if no hand is holding yours, you are never alone. You are surrounded by presence, by ancestors, by loved ones, by energies beyond names who have been waiting for your return. They do not judge you, they do not rush you, they simply receive you as one of their own. So when the moment comes, whenever it does, don't resist, don't be afraid, just breathe and let go. Let the breath carry you the way a wave carries driftwood back to the sea. You are not lost, you are being reclaimed. And in that return you will remember that you are made of stars, you are made of love, you are made of eternity. And the light that carried you here will carry you home. There is something profoundly liberating in understanding that you don't have to fight anymore, you don't have to prove anything, you don't have to keep running or fixing or striving to become what the world wanted you to be. That version of you served its purpose, it brought you here. But now, it's time to come home to who you've always been, beneath the noise. You may feel sorrow rising unexpectedly, tears that come without warning, not because something is wrong, but because something sacred is unfolding. The tears are not grief. They're a soft kind of gratitude, the soul recognizing the beauty in its own unraveling. The mind may not understand, but the heart does. It knows that something larger than life itself is embracing you now. Even the fear begins to change. What once felt terrifying begins to feel holy. It doesn't disappear completely, but it loses its sharpness. It becomes quieter, softer, more like a child's question than a monster's roar, because fear can only survive in the unknown, and as you draw closer to the threshold, there is less and less that remains unknown. You begin to feel it, not just intellectually, but viscerally. The peace, the presence, the knowing, and then you may find that love begins pouring out of you, not for any reason, not because someone earned it, but because there's nothing left but love. Love for the people who hurt you, love for the ones who stood by you, love for the pain, love for the joy, love for the entire messy, beautiful path you walked. And this love doesn't need to be spoken or received. It simply exists, expanding in every direction like light from a candle that never burns out. You may be surprised by how much of life you still feel. Even as your body grows weaker, your senses more dull, your awareness sharpens. You notice the tiniest details, the curl of a leaf, the pattern of light on the wall, the feeling of wind brushing across your skin. These become the soul's final souvenirs, sacred imprints to take with you as you dissolve back into the source. And there is one more gift, one that often comes just before the end, a quiet, unmistakable sense of completion. You'll feel it like a deep exhale in the center of your being, a release. Not because everything is perfect, not because every question was answered or every wound healed, but because something in you knows it's enough. It's all been enough. You lived, you loved, you learned, and now your soul is ready to expand beyond the form it once needed. You may not speak in your final days, you may not even move, but your energy will speak volumes. People will feel it, the peace, the presence, the invisible but unmistakable light that surrounds someone who is stepping into the next realm. You don't have to explain it, you don't have to understand it, you just have to allow it. And if you're someone witnessing this in another, know that your presence matters more than you realize. You don't need the right words, you don't need to fill the silence, just be there. Touch their hand. Let your love speak through your stillness. Let your breath sync with theirs. Let your presence become the bridge that helps carry them across. Because the truth is, there is no death, not in the way we've been taught. There's only transition, the shedding of what's temporary to reveal what's eternal, the dropping of form so that essence can be free. It's not the end of the story, it's the part where the soul puts down the book and steps into the truth behind the word. And once you cross that threshold, you'll know there is no pain, no separation, no loss, only light, only connection, only the overwhelming sense that everything has always been okay, that everything you clung to, everything you feared, was just a cloud passing through the sky of your infinite being. In that space, time does not exist. You are not late, you are not early, you are right on time. There is no judgment, no scales weighing your worth, only love meeting itself again. You will not be asked to explain, you will not be asked to justify. You will be held, welcomed, remembered. And you will remember, not just this life, but all the moments before and beyond. You will remember what it felt like to be stardust, to be sound, to be stillness. You will remember the longing you carried in life was the echo of your soul calling you home, and now that call has become a song, and that song is you. You don't need to rush toward it. You don't need to fear it. It will come when it is meant to. And when it does, you will know, because everything inside you will go quiet, not in despair, but in peace. You will feel the breath become the wind, the body become the earth, the mind become the sky. And what remains is the part of you that has always been, the awareness that watched you learn to walk, that felt every heartbreak, that stood behind every decision whispering softly, "You're still whole." That awareness will rise, unburdened, weightless, infinite. And in its rising you will know what the mystics meant when they said, "You are the ocean pretending to be a drop." So live. While you still have breath, live. Not in fear, but in awe. Not in numbness, but in presence. Let the signs of death awaken your passion for life. Let every reminder of your impermanence make you more loving, more honest, more awake. Because the closer you get to death, the clearer life becomes. You see that it was never about how long you lived, but how deeply. Not how many years, but how many moments you were truly here. That is the secret. That is the truth. They don't teach you in school that you prepare for death not by avoiding it, but by embracing life fully, wildly, fearlessly. And when the time comes, you'll be ready. Not because you checked every box or followed every rule, but because you listened, you loved, you let go. And the soul, your soul, was never meant to stay small. It came here to learn, to remember, and to return. And now, the return has begun. There will be a moment, perhaps sooner than you think, when you will look back and realize none of it was ever really yours to hold. Not the name, not the titles, not the body, not even the breath. They were all borrowed garments for your soul to wear for a while. Each one had its purpose. Each one helped shape the lessons you came here to learn. But now, the soul has outgrown them, and it is ready to return to something timeless. You'll realize that the end was never a punishment. It was always a return ticket. A whisper from the universe saying, "Come home now. You've seen enough. You've felt enough. You've done what you came to do. And no matter how much you wish you had more time, more words, more goodbyes, you will know deep inside that nothing is unfinished when the heart has truly loved. And when you take that final breath, it won't be a falling. It will be a rising. A soft and sacred release, like a single feather floating upward, carried by a wind you cannot see but deeply trust. And in that rising you will feel the weight of this world dissolve, the pain, the regrets, the questions, the doubt, gone. Only clarity remains, only peace. There will be no more need to struggle, no more need to be strong, no more masks to hold up or wounds to hide. Everything will be seen and everything will be forgiven. And in that space you'll understand that forgiveness was never something you earned. It was something that was waiting for you all along. What you feared would be darkness is actually light. Not a light that blinds, but a light that reveals. It will show you every moment you lived with courage, every time you offered kindness when it was hard, every time you listened to someone's pain even when you were hurting. Every smile you gave when you didn't feel like smiling. These are the real accomplishments, the ones that matter. And in that light you will see them again, the ones who left before you, their faces filled with joy, their hearts wide open. They're not waiting to test you. They're not keeping score. They're simply there to remind you that you are never alone, and never have been. Every goodbye you've ever said becomes a reunion. You'll also meet parts of yourself you forgot. The innocent child, the dreamer, the healer, the broken-hearted, the brave one, the part of you that never gave up. And all of those selves will merge into one being, the true you, the eternal you, the you that is not bound by flesh, time, or gravity, the you that remembers how to fly. And when you look back on this life, you won't see a list of failures or missed opportunities. You'll see a masterpiece. A woven tapestry of tears and triumph, struggle and grace, fear and beauty. Every thread essential, every color sacred, nothing wasted, nothing broken, just life, in all its flawed perfection. This is the real meaning of preparing your soul. It's not about rituals, it's not about perfection, it's not about knowing the answers, it's about softening, about releasing the grip on what never mattered. It's about choosing to walk into the unknown with open hands, open heart, and the quiet confidence that what waits for you is not the end, but the beginning of something vast, gentle, and unspeakably beautiful. So breathe, not because you are trying to hold on, but because you are learning how to let go. Breathe like someone who knows that life is a miracle, even when it's messy, even when it hurts, especially when it's nearing its close. Breathe like someone who trusts that the next breath you don't take will carry you somewhere sacred, somewhere free. And while you're still here, let yourself feel it all. The weight, the wonder, the ache, the awe. Let your laughter be loud, let your tears fall freely, let your words be honest, even if they tremble. Say what you need to say, love who you need to love, forgive what you need to forgive. These are not just acts of healing, they are your farewell notes to this world. And let death, when it comes, find you fully alive, eyes open, heart open, ready, not afraid, not running, not hiding, but ready, because you've done the inner work. You've listened to the signs. You've looked your mortality in the eye and said, I see you, I accept you. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to understand you, to walk with you, to let you show me what's on the other side of form. And when that last moment arrives, you'll know there will be a stillness that isn't empty, but full of presence, full of love, full of everything you were always meant to remember. You will close your eyes here and open them somewhere else, somewhere softer, somewhere luminous, somewhere eternal, and when you do, you will laugh, because the great cosmic joke will reveal itself, that there was never anything to fear, that you were never alone, that the light you searched for was always inside you, that you are and have always been infinite. So if you are near the edge now, or if someone you love is, let this truth hold you. Let it calm your trembling heart. Let it wrap around your spirit like a warm and holy wind. You are not dying, you are becoming. You are not losing yourself, you are remembering who you are. And what waits for you beyond this breath is not silence, it is song.